Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to our IAC series. I figured I would continue along with yesterday's paper just to take you through marking up your paper, time allocation. These are the really subtle tools, or should I rather say underrated tools, that are your key to success in an exam like the IAC. I know you guys tend to get so caught up in all of the technical, I almost said the numbers, the technical. But if you do not know how to find information and you do not know how to manage your time, that technical knowledge literally means nothing. Okay, so get these skills right, and then the technical will literally just be a bonus for you to ace these exams. Okay, obviously it's a necessity, but we want to get this right first. Okay, I'm also standing today because I have really been struggling with productivity this December period. Oh, my soul. And I figured it's probably because I keep trying to push. So this will be my last video for a little bit. I'm going to take a much needed break where I'm just going to 5 days of doing nothing academic related because I haven't had that in a minute. Okay, so I decided I would challenge myself with this paper to only have 30 minutes of reading time. Because I know my reading speed, I know I'm quite a fast reader, I can pick things up quite quickly, and also I have practiced my reading skills. So even if you are only wanting to do required A, D, G, and H, let's say those are the only requireds you want to do out of this paper, that's fine. But still read for all of the requireds. That way, you are practicing your reading skill. Because remember, reading is a skill at the end of the day, and you can only improve skills by practicing. So even if you are only doing 1 or 2 or 3 or however many requireds, but you're not doing all of them, you still need to read for all of the requireds. Okay, that's going to help you so much with trigger identification. And it'll be a nice little check for you to see if you would have picked up enough points to comment on in order to get to that 50% that you need to pass the required. Okay, we're not aiming for miracles here. And as soon as you take that pressure off yourself, wonderful things happen. When I was writing IAC, ITC back then, I just wanted to pass. I did not care about doing well. I was so over it. I was so burnt out. I was so finished. I was done. I just wanted to pass. And I ended up doing really, really well. So I ended up getting over 75 overall. I was one of, I think I was 39 in the country. And that was because I took the pressure off. All right. So gave myself 30 minutes of reading time, which means I have 3.5 hours of writing time. So if I take my total number of minutes divided by my total marks, it gives me 1.75 minutes per mark. That is such a nice allocation. Okay, so I read. We'll discuss reading now. I just want to talk about allocating time per required. Okay, now you do not have to do this in chronological order. Okay, you do not have to do it A, B, C, D, E. You don't. You can do it according to your strengths. In fact, I had a session with one of my private students today, and he is writing SUPs in January, and he said one of his biggest learnings from, not passing was that he was doing the questions in chronological order and missing out on marks that would have been much easier for him to get. So for me, personally, I don't like tax. I might do the calculation one, so I might start with A and then do D, and then I like auditing, so I'm going to do F and G and H. I like E as well. So you can literally structure this however you want to. Okay, for the purposes of illustrating this, I think I've gone in chronological order here. Okay, no, actually I didn't. Yeah, I know myself. Okay, so I started with E. Okay, so I started with E, business and financial risks, and I said, okay, cool, 18 times 1,75, right? That's how I'm going to work out how much time. Now notice 18.75. I am losing the plot here, guys. Hope that makes you feel better. If you feel like you're losing the plot, you and me both. So 18 times 1.75 is going to give me my mark allocation, right? So that's going to tell me I've got 31 minutes to do this question. If I finish reading, I think I started at 7:45 and I finish reading at 8:15, then plus 31 minutes, that means that at 8:46, I need to move on to the next required. Not 8:50, we're not rounding it up. 8:46, that means you are literally going to be writing while you're glancing at your little timepiece, okay? It's literally, you don't have to take time to sit and stare at it. It's just glance, 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 glance to see if that hand is striking 8:46. You can round down by all means, but you are not rounding up. Now say it with me. We are not rounding up, okay? And also notice how I didn't include this little one over here. I didn't say 19 times 1.75. I said 18. And the reason that I do this is to bank myself time at the end. So you'll see these little communication marks. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I take 6 times 1.75, I've got almost 11 minutes at the end to go back to anything that I feel like I didn't get to finish. Okay, do you see the math here? This is CA math, not girl math, boy math, it's CA math. We're smart. We say, okay, well, this is just a little extra bonus mark, so let me add a little extra bonus time for myself so that I can go back. So that if I feel like I really struggled with the ATS question in required G, I've got some time to just go back and fill in a few more points. Okay. The other thing that I notice students doing is for a question like G, which is 12 marks, people will literally be writing 18 different points. That's not necessary. At most, you need to write maybe 14. Okay, you do not want to write anything more than 1 or 2 points, maximum 3 points above the mark allocation, okay, because you're just going to be wasting time. And at that stage, when you're writing those last few points, you're already so stressed, so panicked that they're probably not going to make sense. I know, hard to hear, but I'm here to give you the truth, the hard, whole truth with love. Okay. So I allocated time first to E, then I was like, cool, I'm really good with F, G, H, I'm going to do those, and then I'm going to go back to the tax stuff because tax, not so great with that. All right. So now I've allocated my time and I timed myself how long it took me to actually allocate this time, and it was all of 3 minutes. Really not that bad in the grand scheme of things. So if you think about it, it would probably come out of this banked amount here, okay? Because our writing time, starts as soon as we stop reading. Okay, so I've taken 3 minutes from this extra that I've banked for the end, but I've still got 7.5 minutes. Okay, so I've allocated my time. Now I want to show you the importance of symbols and having a system to help you mark up a paper. The important thing here, most people will skip over the background information, and that is why most people lose marks. So for a question like the risks question, right? So this strategic type of question, the business and financial risks, you cannot tell me the risks of a company if you don't understand the background. So for example, here they tell us about the target market. Now they've engaged with this other company that they've purchased assets from. If that company has a different target market, that is a risk. Same thing with doing a criticize the audit plan type of question. You cannot criticize an audit plan if you don't have an understanding of the company and what it does. Okay, because if you're just going to try and focus on that working paper, and maybe I should do a separate video on this, criticizing an audit plan, if you're just going to focus on that working paper and not consider any of the other information, you are not going to pass the question. I'm telling you that right now as someone who has marked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of criticize the audit plan type questions. Okay. You also need to know about Marchant. Is he a VAT vendor? Because that's going to impact your tax discussion, right? Or your tax calculations. Okay, cool. So another thing that you guys do is you'll look at this information, little financial statement, and you'll go, I'm not going to look at it. I'll look at it when I start writing. Don't do that. Let's make a pinky promise right now that we're not going to do that. Because as you can see here, I have literally identified some risks in here. And those risks are going to help me formulate my ROMM. I've even identified loss for the year. Ooh, that could potentially impact my risk question from a MANFIN perspective. And while we're at it, let's throw a little bonus in here. Let's actually look at the difference between a business risk and a ROMM. Okay, because I think so many people still get that wrong. So, little bonus here, story time. So, business risk, we are either linking it to the financials or to the operations. Okay, when I say financials, I mean the actual financial position or financial performance of a company, not the financial statements. On the contrary, if we are dealing with ROMM at overall financial statement level, we are linking it to the financial statements as a whole. Okay, so let's take this loss, for example. How are we going to word this as a business risk? Okay, the entity is loss-making and thus may not be a going concern. Okay, that is the business risk element, right? What is the ROMM element? So we need trigger, the entity is loss-making. This creates a risk that the going concern assumption is applied inappropriately. Do you see that difference? Okay. Be helpful if you could actually see it. One is talking about the actual going concern ability. That's the business risk. The other one is talking about the going concern assumption, which we use to prepare the financial statements. You see? Okay, I know you guys see. I can telepathically feel the light bulbs that are going off at this very moment. Okay, cool. So you can see that I have got this little symbol over here. It's got an R and a P. Now, why do I have that? Because if you look at the required said to us, we need to find ROMM at assertion level for inventory, specifically existence, completeness, and valuation, and PPE valuation. Okay, so my RP is my risk for PPE, which means that when I'm addressing this part of the required, all I am looking for is my RPs. I plug and play. I don't need to go and reread anything because you're going to spend time rereading the background trying to find the risks. Whereas if you had used your reading time properly, you wouldn't need to do that because you're just going to look for your RPs. Okay. So I've got some more RP. Okay, I've made some markings. I've circled a few things. Okay, and that's because I want to draw my attention to these things. Okay, then I get to my tax payable. Now I know tax payable, I need to work with numbers because I'm doing a calculation. So I'm circling all the numbers. Do you see how I have circled these numbers? It's to draw my attention because, again, I'm doing a calculation question, which means I need numbers, which means those numbers need to be easy enough for me to find so that I can plug and play. Okay. I also underline certain things because per month, if I'm doing a tax calculation for the entire year of assessment, I need to multiply that by 12. So I'm drawing attention to the fact that I need to still multiply this by 12. Okay. Great. Then I get to this piece of the scenario, and now you can see I've still got my RPs. Because why? Because this was not limited to only one part of the scenario. It just says with reference to Vendy Boys. It doesn't say with reference to new business opportunity or with reference to management accounts. So it is telling you that you need to look at the entire scenario. This is what I call a pervasive required, because it's not confined to only one part of the scenario. It is throughout the scenario. So you need to have ROMM at the back of your mind, even when you're reading through the section that relates to tax, even when you're reading through the section that relates to VAT or income tax or the individual tax calculation. You need to be having that ROMM in the back of your mind. Okay, not so much individual tax calculation because it said specifically Vendy Boys, and Vendy Boys was only started later. Vendy Boys is obviously a company. Okay, so scratch that piece. But you need to be having that in the back of your mind while you are reading through all information that relates to the Vendy Boys. Okay, so now I've got these asterisks, and the asterisks are going to help me come up with the strategic risks, the business and financial risks. And it's just, again, a case of plug and play. So I go and look at OMV focuses mainly on hotels, big corporate office buildings, and other businesses. Remember how I said you need to know what they specifically focus on? Well, Marchand only has knowledge of student preferences. So this is a bit of a mismatch here. So it's a risk. Okay, another one, there are 32 vending machines around 20 sites. Wow, they're quite like sparsely located. So isn't that a bit of a risk? How are we going to maintain that? What about theft? Okay, so one little asterisk can also have multiple risks. The important thing is just trigger and effect. Okay, some of the machines are more than 10 years old. Ooh, again, we've got a overlap between ROMM and our business or strategic risks. Okay, so let's maybe take the opportunity to show the difference again. If we are wording this specific trigger here, the fact that the machines are more than 10 years old, this drawing thing is going to drive me crazy today. Okay, that's our trigger, right? If we think about our effect from a business risk perspective, it's going to be the ongoing operation of these machines is doubtful due to them being old, which could cause breakdowns and additional maintenance expenses. Okay, this is our business risk. Okay, we are linking it to the operations or the financial standing, the financial performance, the financial position of the business. Conversely, if we word this as a ROMM, okay, we could say something like there is, again, we need triggers since the machines are more than 10 years old. There's actually two we could potentially say here. There is a risk that they are fully depreciated but still have a value in the PPE account. And because this is an assertion level risk, we can link this to valuation. Okay. Or we could link it to existence because technically those assets don't exist. If they are fully depreciated, they should not have a value in the books. Okay, so that's the one risk that we could come up with. The other one is that there might be more frequent maintenance that is then incorrectly capitalized incorrectly expensed, okay? Or repairs that are incorrectly capitalized to the PPE account. That shouldn't be there. Okay, so I hope you guys are seeing the difference between business risk and ROMM and how they can actually overlap. All right, so those are my little asterisks, again, circling numbers because I'm doing a calculation. And then if I look at these other little asterisks, Johnny has previous logistics experiences. Okay, he lives with his parents, previously made deliveries. So now I'm thinking, is Johnny the most qualified to run this business? That's going to be a business risk. Okay, but then you see I've got this little thing here that says ethics. So I draw my attention to the ethics so that when I do this question right at the end, the ethical concerns question, I just look for anything that relates to ethics. So there's an ethics issue. Here are two other ethics issues. Now you can see I've also got an RI over here. That's funny considering auditing RI. Okay, so I've got an RI, which is going to be all my ROMM related to inventory. Okay, so I really, really recommend, there's one more thing I wanted to do. Oh, with the @ again, as I was reading through these data fields, I know what you guys do. You skip over this and you think you're going to figure it out when you're writing. If you have the reading time, use it efficiently to see which assertions you can test with the different data fields. Okay, so that's what I've done here. I tried to link things. I tried to write the assertion I would test. I tried to say, okay, I could stratify because there's different locations. Okay, so I'm sort of like setting up my answer already in the reading time so that it's plug and play in the writing time. Okay, so I hope that was helpful and good luck for the rest of your studies. I will see you after my little holiday.